Today on our 2015 Ford F-350, we'll be taking a look at and installing the Firestone Air Command One analog gauge with standard duty compressor. Part number F-250. We'll be using this kit to upgrade our previously installed Firestone Ride-Rite air helper springs. Part number F-2535. Now you can see that we have our gauge here on the inside of the vehicle. We have our power on, so it is operational. But if we need to turn on our lights because it's getting dark or whatever, we need to see it, we'll go ahead and flip up that auxiliary 1 switch and get our lighting back behind it. Now we're ready to go ahead and air up our airbags. Now we'll just go ahead and spray some soapy water around our fittings just to make sure that we don't have any leaks. Now we'll go ahead and let out the air down to 5 pounds. 5 pounds will be your minimum that you'll need to keep in to keep the bags formed. Now to go down, we'll just simply press the switch down. First thing we're going to do in our installation of our Air Command One is find a good location to mount our air compressor. Now if we go directly underneath the fuel cell on this vehicle, there's going to be a bracket attached to the frame that's going to be a guard. And it's not supporting anything and it's not really doing anything, and it's an empty bracket. So we're going to remove the bracket and mount our air compressor to it. You can see the bracket here. We're going to go ahead and pull it down and drill our holes to mount our compressor to the front side of it. This will also keep down on the vibration and noise in the cab when the compressor is running. We'll go ahead and spray with a little spray lubricant and remove those nuts. Now keep all the hardware when you're pulling this apart, because we're going to put that back in place after we get the air compressor on it. We're going to go ahead and make our marks for our air compressor. Now our air compressor is going to sit on it like so. So we'll go ahead and make our marks. We'll go ahead and take a paint pen and just go ahead and mark those. Now we'll go ahead and center punch our holes. Now we'll go ahead and drill out our holes. We'll go ahead and line it up with the holes and slip our hardware through. Now that we have our holes drilled through, we'll go ahead and slip our flat washers over our bolts and slide them on through. Placing another flat washer on the bottom and then our lock nut. Now we'll go ahead and tighten them down and secure them. Now we'll go ahead and raise that bracket back up into place. Simply slide it up and over. Place the existing factory nuts back in place, and we'll secure it. That's going to be a nice sturdy housing for our air compressor to be. Now we're going to pull through our orange wire from our wiring harness as well as our air hose so we can connect it to our supply going to the control module. Now we're going to pull them through the hole that's located right here in the frame. There's going to be another place where we're going to need to connect an air line, and that's going to be on the back. We'll need to soak our line in hot water for 5 minutes to make that connection nice and tight. This connection is going to be for our air filter. Now let's go ahead and take an old air hose. You can use a coat hanger if you'd like, or another stiff object to stick through the hole. And once we have that through to the other side, we'll go underneath and connect our wires. Now with our wires connected to our pull cord, we'll go ahead and pull it over to the other side. And we'll go ahead and take the tape off the end, but we'll leave it on the end of the air line until we hook it up. Now we'll go ahead and unravel our wires. Now we'll go ahead and mount our ground wire up to the bottom side of the bed. Now we'll go ahead and connect our orange wire to our red wire. Plug them in, and then we'll tape them to ensure that they're secure. Once we've taped the connections, we'll go ahead and pull it through. Now we'll go ahead and remove the red plug, securing the hole for our supply and the air line to go in. Now we'll go ahead and attach our connection for our supply air line into the compressor. Go ahead and tighten it down until the orange threads have disappeared. Once it's tightened down and secure, we'll go ahead and plug in our air line. Push it in and pull out to ensure that it's securely fastened. Then we'll push the excess air line back over the top of the fuel tank. Now you can see we have our excess air line and our orange wire hanging over the back side of the fuel tank. We're going to go ahead and run them back behind the bracket securing that fuel tank and over the top to where we meet up with the inside of the frame rail so we can run our wires along our brake lines. Now pay careful attention to make sure that your lines don't get kinked, split, or bent when you're pulling them through. Avoid sharp objects as best as possible. Now we'll go ahead and run our lines around our fuel lines. Weaving it over the top of any of the lines, keeping it as tucked away as possible so it's not damaged by heat or any sharp objects. Now we'll take our red wire and white wire and thread them through the same way. Now we'll go ahead and mount our coil up underneath the back side of the body. Go ahead and thread through that red wire over the top of the fuel tank just as we did before, and along the brake lines up to the driver's side battery. And we'll just leave this red one hanging out here until we're ready to pull it up into the engine compartment. Now with our white wire, our red wire, and our air hose up here at the front, we're now ready to go ahead and run them up into the engine compartment. Now we'll go ahead and take a long pole wire, just as we did before when we were mounting up our compressor, and put it down back behind the brake booster along the back of the firewall coming out the bottom. That way we can pull all of our wires and our air lines up top. All right, now we can see our pole wire end right here. We'll go ahead and connect our red wire, white wire, and our air line to it and pull them all up top. All right, now that we have all of our wires pulled up, we'll go ahead and go down and check and make sure that there's no kinks or nothing's tangled around anything. So we'll just tape it off right here, just temporarily. Now we're gonna go ahead and tape off, use a little bit of duct tape, our air hose to our pole wire. We'll go ahead and take a stiff piece of wire and push it through the grommet that's gonna be right above the brake booster on the far side. Now we'll go ahead and pull on our pole wire and slide it all through. Now we'll go ahead and take our control unit and mount it on our dash. Go ahead and place it where we want to put it and mark where we're going to drill our holes. Once we have our holes marked, we can then go ahead and drill them out. Now we'll go ahead and stick through our hardware, which is going to be a bolt, a flat washer, and then on the back side we'll add a flat washer and lock nut. Now we're going to take that stiff pole wire and stick it back through the firewall right along the side of the two wires that we just pulled through. This is so we can pull a separate air hose out to run back to the airbags. Alright, now we're going to use that other air line that came in our kit. We'll go ahead and you can see that you're going to have the one coming from the compressor that's all janky and got a bunch of electrical tape and duct tape on the end of it. We're going to leave that on it just for identification purposes while we do this. The other one's going to be clean and not have anything on it. So we'll connect our pole wire with our tube and use a little duct tape again. All right, now we'll go ahead and grab our end of our pole wire and pull it through. We'll go ahead and remove the tape off the end of this and then run our pole wire all the way back to where we're going to tee it off to run to our airbags. We'll send a pole wire down just as we did before to pull the wires up so we can pull this wire down. Go ahead and pull our wires back and we're going to follow it along the inside of the frame just as we did before, going over the top of the fuel tank and then splitting off after the fuel tank. All right, you can see up front we come down on top of the frame rail and then just the air lines are going to go into the frame rail, whereas the wires are going to come over the top. Those will be worked back right on the inside of the frame rail all the way back to the fuel tank. You can see them all here, and then they're going to shoot over to the top of the air tank, over to the top of the fuel tank, and they'll be slightly visible on this side over here, but they're going to come out right on the back side. You're going to have the one air line coming out on the back side of the fuel tank, which is going to tee off to each airbag. And then just about halfway down the fuel tank, you're going to have it where it goes out to the air compressor and you're gonna have your little circuit breaker. Now we'll go ahead and take our passenger side airbag and the hose coming off of it. We'll run it up and into the frame rail coming out the backside, trying to avoid our exhaust heat the best we can. So you can see it coming around the backside here. We'll go ahead and pull it up to where we're at just about the end, and then we'll grab our heat protectors. These are going to be the little slide pieces, the black pieces that'll slide right over. And then we'll plug it right into the top of the airbag, push down, and pull up. This will ensure that it's a nice tight fit. Then we'll bring it around the back side of the channel to where we're going to make our T connection. Now we'll plug in our driver's side and run our wire right over the top of the fuel tank to where we're going to make our connection as well. Now we'll go ahead and cut off the end of the one coming back from the front of the vehicle. We'll place our T connector on. Same thing, press and pull to ensure a good tight fit. Now we have our T connection. We'll go ahead and give ourselves a little bit of slack so we can tie off our lines. Start with the driver's side. We'll cut that, remove the excess, press it in. Now with the one coming from the passenger side, do the same thing. So right now we're going to go ahead and space out our two lines that we have coming in. One's going to go to the supply and one's going to go to the airbags. Then we'll go ahead and trim them back once we figure out how long we're going to need them. Now we'll go ahead and use our tubing cutter. You can find it on our website, part number F9009. So the first one that we just cut's coming from the air compressor, so we're going to mark that real quick just by putting a piece of duct tape around the end. There's going to be two separate white wires. One will be the ground and one's going to be the power. We'll plug in the one that's closest to our gauge on the bottom side. So the furthest over this way, it's going to be this one here. That's going to get plugged in to our spade connector coming in from the air compressor. Then this white wire is going to go to the ground. You're going to have two black wires as well, and that bottom one is also going to be a ground. The top one is going to go to your illumination switch, which if your vehicle is equipped with the auxiliaries, like here, these can all be located directly above the brake, release, and brake switch. Now we're going to use this bolt located right here, directly above the plastic piece next to the driver's side pedal kick panel. We're going to use our quick connector and connect our two grounds together. Once you have the two grounds connected together, go ahead and close the cover. Now we'll use the provided ring terminal to make that connection. Now we'll connect our quick connector to our auxiliary 1 wire. Now if you look, there's going to be a little code on it that tells you which wire it is. For this particular vehicle, it's going to be the yellow wire that says aux 1. Once we have it fully seated in there, we'll take our black wire that we have left remaining to come over and connect it. And once we have it through the quick connector, we'll then go ahead and crimp it. Again, that's right above the emergency brake and brake release lever. But do keep in mind that for that, it's only going to be on the vehicles that have the auxiliary ports already added to them. Now, if you do not have those, you're going to need to connect it to your dash switch or your dash lights. We'll go ahead and place our air tube inside the hot glass of water for about 5 minutes. That way we can get a good seat on our control unit. And we're going to take our side coming from our air compressor, and that's going to go to the supply knob that's located right here. Go ahead and press it on, making sure that we aren't wrapped around anything. We'll then go ahead and connect our other air hose. Now to go ahead and clean up our look and appearance on the inside of the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of wire loom, and you can get that on our website if you so choose. Other than that, you can always use your zip ties that are included, as well as any electrical tape. Now I'll go ahead and strap up our wires underneath of our dash to hide and conceal them. Now I'll go ahead and cut the tails off of all those zip ties, and we'll be done on the inside of the vehicle. Now here's what your air filter will look like for your air compressor. Go ahead and thread in the back, which is going to be your air fitting, and tighten it down. Making sure we get a nice good seat with our fitting. Now we'll go ahead and take our air line that we've had soaking in hot water and fit the fitting over the end. Press it on until it's fully seated. Then we'll take it and put it up in a dry spot up on the inside, bringing the other side of the line through the hole on the end of the bracket and attaching it to the compressor. Be careful not to kink the line. Once we have it on all the way, we'll go ahead and zip tie up our filter up in a nice dry area up above the gas tank. That way it can be easily taken down and changed out. Now we'll go ahead and take the end off of our perforated line there for our wire. We'll place on our last remaining ring terminal from our kit and crimp it on. Go ahead and use an 8mm wrench to loosen up the positive side of the battery. Place over the ring terminal and then connect the nut back in place. Then we'll tighten it down. Now with our positive side of our battery nice and tight, we'll now just tuck our fuse out of the way. And that will do it for our review and installation of the Firestone Air Command One, part number F-215 on our 2015 Ford F-350.